Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This morning I'm looking at a very interesting book which has come to us from Hart Publishing, part of the Bloomsbury Publishing plc group. This book is about European Union law and trade, fundamentally, and of course international law. The title of the book is Uniformity of Customs Administration in the European Union, and it's been written by Kathrin Limbach. Now, my wife Elizabeth and I talked about this book, and we've written a review which is on the web and in the journals, and the title we've given the book is this for our review: The Case for Customs Reform in the European Union, the Complexities and the Legal Position. Let's have a look at the book first of all. This is the book here. You can see it's part of a series of books called the Modern Studies in European Law series up there from Hart. You can see their logo and you can see the actual title of the book there. There's the spine, which you can see there, and then the back. Now, the dust cover has some general blurb on the inside front part of it about the book itself, which we'll explain, and then there's a very short piece of information about the author there. Let's have a look at the book itself. It's a hardback, and there's an index, quite a detailed index at the back. It's under 350 pages long. The index is page numbered, not paragraph numbered, you'll be pleased to hear. Then there's a very substantial bibliography again at the back of the book. Now, at the front of the book, I've got some general information. This is volume 59 of the series Modern Studies in European Law. And after that, you've got the front page there. Then after, and in fact, what you do have is information about the other books in the series there. And of course, there is a website, which is Hart Publishing website. Then you've got the basic acknowledgements, and then the various contents. This is a book which is split up into parts and therefore chapters in various parts running all the way through. And you can see there's a lot of detail there. The content section is useful because you should be able to find what you're looking for quite quickly. As I say, there are 6 parts, the 6th part being the final conclusions. Then you have right at the end the index. Then we get into tables of cases, which will be not surprising. A lot of them, of course, are European citation cases. You can see that from the way that they are cited there. Then, after that, you get into the basic introduction to the subject itself, setting out what this book is all about. It says, Uniform Customs Administration in the European Union. In the current era of increasing globalisation, the European administrative area cannot be understood in isolation from worldwide harmonisation processes. That's how it starts off. You see there are footnotes at the bottom. It's a fairly bold statement, that one, because bearing in mind that we are facing a referendum at the moment of our continued membership of the EU, that's a bold statement to make. You can see again lots of footnotes at the bottom. There's no paragraph numbering. You do actually have some subheadings, and they sometimes use lettering and sometimes numbering as well to find things. It's a very interesting book on anything directly linked with what I would describe as the basic concepts of why we actually went in to what was originally called a common market in the first place, which is of course the customs administration issues. Of course, the founding fathers did not, I suspect, envisage what we've got today by way of the European Union, which has got both an economic and a political dimension to it. However, we will look in this review at what in fact this book is offering us, both in terms as lawyers covering European Union law, which is now effectively compulsory on undergraduate and professional courses, and also, of course, we're looking at international law, the international stage, and basically trade. And you've heard the basic view right at the beginning about globalisation, which is always going to be at the forefront of any of these books today. This is what we say. International lawyers, certainly academics, grappling with the complexities and often the uncertainties of customs law within the European Union, will certainly welcome this new book from the Hart Publishing imprint of Bloomsbury Publishing. And it's thanks to her dedicated work and her detail, the thoroughness and the copious research that's taken place that the author, Kathrin Limbach, painstakingly constructs a substantially supported and therefore convincing case for, as the title indicates, uniformity of customs administration in the European Union. And that is, of course, the basis upon which most of us have understood why we went into the common market on the 1st of January 1973, and why with the referendum that took place in 1976 we continued our membership. Notwithstanding that, we are still talking about this basic concept of uniformity, standardization of the way we deal with customs across the member states of the EU. One could infer then, that the aim here is the standardization, or you could call it the harmonization of European Union customs law throughout the EU, which in the fullness of time might lead to the eventual harmonization of European law in general, which I've always suggested in the 20 years I've been doing these book reviews, that in fact is exactly what has always been at the forefront of many of the supporters of the European Union. It's basically the ideal, and I'm sure that is gaining momentum as more and more of our laws become more uniform with the rest of Europe. But as this possibility, I would suggest, is still remote at the moment, and to say the least, bearing in mind what's happening as I record this in the early months of 2016, there's a huge amount of debate going on. And of course the reform of EU customs law is the logical place to initiate the process of reform, notwithstanding anything that Prime Minister David Cameron is trying to achieve at the moment concerning our renegotiation of our membership of the EU and the referendum, which is probably going to be held in the middle of 2016. Certainly the standardisation of EU customs law would have a practical value in that it would encourage greater competitiveness and facilitate more trade, the enhancement of trading conditions being the original raison d'etre of the European Economic Community as it then was. And the vision of Europe as a trading bloc then is of course the main reason why the United Kingdom became a European Union member state under the current treaty that declares the existence of the EU. What the book points up here is something of a paradox, of course. Quote, on the one hand, says the author, the EU is a customs union with its customs law harmonised and enacted centrally on the European Union level. Excuse me. On the other hand, she adds, European Union customs law is applied and implemented by the national customs authorities of the European Union member states. Customs administration in the EU is therefore, in fact, decentralised, which, as you might say, makes things tougher for the efficient functioning of the European Union as a customs union, which, as I've said before, is probably the starting off point as to what we thought our membership really entailed. At least that's part of the story. As reform is certainly required, the book touches on the role of the World Trade Organization, the WTO, of which the EU is a member, and which could conceivably challenge the current status quo. In the meantime, decision makers in this area need detailed guidance and solid information on, for example, the relevant decision-making processes and procedures implemented by the national customs authorities in the EU. In this respect, the book excels with its detailed discussions of tools, mechanisms and strategies. Now, part 3 of the book is especially interesting to us because it calls, as it does, for a modernised customs code and an electronic customs initiative as part of a reformed information technology strategy, an IT strategy, and the facilitation of global trade and greater economic prosperity being the aims in view. Now, you can see from that again we're moving very much farther forward with the development of artificial intelligence and massive computer systems, which certainly will be the future as we get towards the end even of this decade. Let me conclude by saying this, that practitioners, and indeed anyone charged with the analysis or interpretation of EU customs law, will no doubt find this timely treatise extremely useful. We certainly think so. When in particular you consider the extensive footnoting which the author Kathrin has actually carried out, and the 20-page bibliography at the back, the book functions admirably, we feel, as a rich resource of recent and current research, and the publication date is cited at 2015. Now, I can't say more than to thank Kathrin and both Hart and Bloomsbury for producing this title in this series, because it's this sort of information that does inform us of where we stand at the moment with the EU and what's going on. Now let's have a look here. The Electronic Customs Initiative. This is, I'm just opening the book anyway, you see the substantial amount of footnoting, tremendous research and scholarship that's gone into this. But you can see it's a detailed book, not the easiest book in the world to read, but you can see that Kathrin has produced a very, very important contribution to the current debate. Part 5, right at the end before the conclusions, specific areas of EU customs, and then you're looking at the tools and mechanisms. Because I do think that one of the things that we are looking at today is very much the growth of IT, computer systems, and countries talking to other countries about the way we do our business and everything else for that matter. And talking, of course, as you know, is much better than any other form of trying to deal with issues. I'd like to thank Hart and the author and everybody involved in this book, and of course the people running the series of books on European Union, European law, very much indeed for another excellent contribution to where we're going. And I'm not saying anything about the referendum, because by the time you probably review this, we will know the outcome. Thank you to all anyway. Bye-bye.